It's the MythWits, a geek pop culture web series, broadcast live for video and audio podcasts. Watch us live at MythWits.com and find us on YouTube and iTunes, bringing you news and reviews about geek pop culture. We have comedy skits, play nerd-tastic games, and provide extensive on-location con coverage.
I'm here with
Allegra, the chainmail
and
Matthew Penick, the owner-operator of Ribbons and Rivets.
so we do a lot of coverage talking about cosplay at cons, but have yet to interview
A geek
cosplayers.
pop
You're my
culture
first
web
cosplayers, and I'm really happy that
Touched.
you brought him along because it's nice to have a guy and a girl so I can get the different perspectives because everybody has like a different take on things from a different perspective. So I guess let's start this out with just tell me what you do. Tell me about how you got into cosplay and the kind of cosplay you do and that sort of thing.
Well, for a long time, I guess, I've always considered cosplay to be kind of like when you're dressing up as a specific character, like you're deliberately trying to replicate someone's appearance. And for a long time, I was just more of a costumer.
Okay.
I like to dress up for the sake of dressing up.
Sure.
And then after I started going to conventions, and I realized that people would come as like stormtroopers or anime characters, and I was like, holy cow, there's like all this unexplored territory. So I think my first cosplay was a webcomics character from Girl Genius.
Right.
And so my friend and I worked really hard on our costumes. We had matching costumes, and we were both poor college students, and neither of us really knew anything about like sewing or
Right.
crafting things. And so we made them more or less out of like felt glue, tape, and stuff that we found at thrift shops. And we were so proud of these costumes. We entered in the costume contest. We worked up this whole skit and everything, and nobody knew who we were.
Right, of course not. You outcrafted everybody.
Oh.
Look how witty we are. Nobody, you know who I am?
We're so obscure.
Look how cool we're not cool. No.
Does anybody know?
Right, exactly.
But it was really fun, and it was fun getting to sort of like sink into this character. And so after that, I've gone for slightly more recognizable
Right.
people. Haven't run into that issue again.
And then, how about?
I think my first costume I probably made when I was 15 in kind of the same situation. I started out going to Renaissance festivals before I even found conventions. And it's kind of the same thing.
That's kind of a convention, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I was just blown away by everybody participating in this overarching theme of, hey, look, we're not ourselves, we're something larger than life kind of thing, and instantly just wanted to play along with everybody. I eventually ended up learning leatherworking with my first craft for costuming, and just when I saw the guys walking around in the full suits of armor and stuff, I was like, wow, these people own this place, that's
Right.
what I want to be. But finally figured out how to do all that, and for the longest time I was just very sold on you make your own costume, you don't cosplay as the term is. I didn't really think about cosplaying as being as impressive of the art form because you're not actually coming up with the character.
Right.
But then I did my first cosplay as Cade Skywalker, and seeing the reaction from people when they're like, oh, that's one of my favorite characters, and that's great. They just react totally differently, and they participate more that way. And always with the kids that start bouncing up and down when they see somebody that they recognize from a comic or a movie or something like that, it makes it a lot more rewarding that way too.
That's cool. So, I guess, how long does it, I know every costume's different, but what kind of time can somebody put into making a costume, like not something really super, like, crazy elaborate, but like, you give me an idea. What kind of, like one of your costumes?
I guess, it maybe like for sort of an average amount of labor, I'd say is maybe like 2 weeks. But the thing that's always, it makes it feel like it's more time is, you're costuming, but you also you've got your day job,
Oh, sure.
or you've got, kids, or all the other life responsibilities where it's a little hard to be like, okay, so costuming kind of goes further down on the priority list. So it might be it might be just like 2 weeks of work, but it's like 2 weeks of work spread out over like 3 months.
Right.
Cause
And it's always when you're most tired.
Yeah,
right?
and then you're like, oh, holy cow, DragonCon is like 2 weeks away and I haven't finished anything.
Right.
It's just like panic mode, everything gets sort of like, that's good enough, it'll work. And
No one will see that.
yeah.
Safety pins everywhere.
It's carpet tape,
But it also
so
kind of just depends on whether or not you're doing a character that comes from a modern theme, whereas, they might wear a suit and a tie and some strange shoes with spurs or something, that you can actually find mostly at Goodwill and at stores and stuff like that. Or if it's like some crazy sci-fi space adventure or, medieval fantasy where you're not going to find stuff like that at Goodwill or a thrift shop.
I swear, I think part of the reason Doctor Who is so popular is because it's so easy to cosplay.
Right. So I did one time I wore a costume to a thing, and I'm not really much into it, but I thought, this year I'm gonna do it. So I work for a company that has 3D modeling and stuff like that, and I got one of my buddies. I said, could you model me up Riddick's glasses? Right? Because I'll go with Riddick.
Dude.
So he did. He modeled it up, and I took it into the lab, and they grew it for me. So the 3 pairs, and so I had the goggles on, and of course I had the muscle shirt and a pair of cargo pants and boots, right? And nobody said anything. Because it's so little of a costume. It's almost nothing to it. You know what I mean?
But it's Riddick.
Right.
I would have known. That was Riddick.
Huh?
Was it like near the movie? Like
Yes.
when the movie come out?
No.
I'll say that.
Well, you know what? The new one's coming out.
Yeah,
so
so I
you need
can
to
do
come
it
back and do
again.
it again and be like,
Still have the goggles, so maybe I'll try again. I'm not nearly as beefy as Vin, so
I don't think anyone. He's like 98% muscle and then like 2% super gravelly voice.
Right. So, maybe I could. Hey, I'm ready now. Is that part of the costume? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people even they change their voice, and then you meet them later, and you don't recognize their face, you don't recognize their voice,
Right.
you have no clue who this person is, and they're like, oh hey,
When you go to a convention of 40,000 people and you meet, 400 new faces, it'd be hard enough in the first
I was
place.
that stormtrooper.
Sure. Yeah, I was.
But then you completely change settings and it's just a lost cause. And so,
I feel like it takes me like a couple conventions before I really like recognize people like solidly.
So before we go any further, I got a ton of questions, but before we go any further, I'd like to explain to everybody why you're green. Because this isn't like really a costume here. You're just green.
I'm green with envy. I am working at True Dungeon here at GenCon, and True Dungeon is sort of it's hard to describe. There's so many aspects of it, but essentially what it is if you had a live-action D&D dungeon,
Right.
and you had the option to either go through and solve a bunch of puzzles, almost like a Legend of Zelda type thing, or in true D&D style, hack and slash your way through the dungeon. And so it uses sort of like a modified D&D system, and you come and you have a time slot, and you get together with a party, everybody has characters, and you guys all work your way through the dungeon.
Okay.
So, and my character is green.
But you work the True Dungeon.
Yes.
So, and how is that?
It's
fun?
really, really fun. It's the same sort of thing. People react to you,
Right.
You are part of this, environment, this storyscape, and they want to be a part of it,
Right.
So they enjoy interacting with you.
That's cool. And Matt, they can't see the stuff on the camera on your face and all, but you
I
were
was
in there
completely
too.
covered.
Let me
in the
assure you, he
costume.
looks terrible.
My whole head was covered in latex, and I was wearing probably 20 pounds of black robes. So yeah, there's nothing remaining of me from the costume except for
But he
sweat
looked really
growing.
cool. We can't show you what our costumes look like because against dungeon policies,
Right.
so it has to be a surprise for everybody coming through, but I'm sure you'll see pictures of stuff later if you go look up on their website.
Right. All right, so back to the costume.
Back to the
All right,
costume.
so one of the things that comes to mind is, have you ever worked on you got this costume idea and you start building it, right? And you start getting it together and it's not working, and you're like, and you can't make it work. It's like I thought this thing would do this and fit this way, but it doesn't. And oh crap, I've put all this time in.
Literally
How do-
everything we
How
made.
many pairs of Lego did you make?
Oh my gosh! I needed this. It's the headdress.
Right.
You've seen Star Wars. The
Sure.
alien dancing girls. They've got like the sort of long
yeah,
tentacles
yeah,
coming out
yeah,
their
yeah,
heads.
right.
And I have been trying and trying and trying to make a pair of these that were like sort of like flexible and would like move around but still looked realistic, because in the newer movies they had these really nice like latex or silicone props, and it looked very seamless. Versus like in the old ones they just had like paint
like a sock or something.
Yeah, exactly. But so everyone wants like the quality has gone up, so higher standards. So I've been trying to make these things, and it's just been one tragedy after another.
There are also Darth Talons who are probably that much longer than everybody else.
Oh yeah, hers are like super long
so
too.
You have that much more weight. So
every
she puts
picture
this
you
thing
see
on,
of her, they're all like woo.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I tried making them, and then it didn't work. And I eventually ordered a pair, but they're still very short, and talons are, they're long. And so then I tried again, because I started working with latex, and I felt like, I've got a better understanding of this material. So I had this whole plan, I like made this thing, and then I was like latexing over it, and then I put it on, and like my head was, it was too heavy. It was too heavy, and it looked bad. I didn't know how to attach it to my head.
Right.
So I'm probably gonna try again.
Okay.
And so if you interview me like in another year, I'll be like, and I failed a 4th time. Damn
This
it.
will be 3 years running trying to make this prop.
So
There's just some things that you don't have the right materials or the right know-how to do properly, and it's okay to outsource.
Right.
Yeah.
So every once in a while you just say, all right, you know what, I'm just gonna buy this.
Yeah, like in the long run, you are saving yourself time and money and blood and sweat and tears. So all these things together, really, just might as well buy it.
Right. And have you had any experience with that? Is it sort of like a given?
Yeah, I don't think anybody who's ever actually tried to make their own costume hasn't run into that at some point in time. Luckily, with most of the stuff that I do, because I'm making my own patterns, if I mess up, it's usually, hey, I've got some cardboard that I cut out that I need to throw away now that I have to reshape. But every once in a while, something doesn't bend the way you think it's going to, or doesn't fit up like you think it's going to. And for me, that just usually means I apply some drilling and some scissors and chop it up a little bit and try and make it look pretty.
Or you make the pattern and you didn't number it.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, so I make an entire pattern of something that has like 28 pieces to it, shape about this big, and I get it all constructed out of cardboard because that's how I do my patterns. And I take it all back apart, get ready to lay it out and trace it on the leather when I'm about to start getting the actual piece together, and realize that I didn't number anything, so I don't know where any of these pieces go.
How did I put this together?
It took me about another probably 6 hours just to figure out where everything went. I was like, I know it goes together right, but it's just,
then I can, and then no, and then.
I might have ended up with something totally different than what I started. It's like, well, this is what I didn't mean to build,
But it's great.
but
It's an AT-AT. Really? I don't know, sure.
it came out with something.
Does it look like an AT-AT?
If it looks like a U, I'm sold.
Right. Cool. So what about sort of like the cosplay hazards? So I think you were talking before about like air holes and like I'll give mine real quick. So the Riddick glasses I made, right? And they fogged up so bad because it's Liana,
about that.
And I had them on. I'm just like, and of course I used plexiglass material that I had them cut with a laser, and so I couldn't see anything with them on. So I had to lift them up, right? So I couldn't actually wear them and see anything. So they kind of sat on my head.
So you had these like beautifully crafted, completely non-functional
Right.
goggles.
Did you get silver contacts for when you're?
I did not. I could have, but I didn't, and I should have. That would have done it. But I had this thing about touching my eye. It's like I don't know. I know people now. I don't do that. Don't lick it. Have you heard that? Oh, never mind. It turned out to be a hoax anyway. But there was this story going around in Japan about kids, like school kids licking eyes.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
But it's not real. It's not real. It turned out to be fake. Anyway.
Someone linked this it was like a comic or something, depicting the act, and I was like, why?
It's not sexy.
Hazards of cosplay. Well, definitely so they always say, and it's like every costume panel I've ever been on, we always give this tip. Try out your costume at home before you take it to the convention.
Right.
And so it's like the shoes, the headdress, all of that, because you want to know that it's comfortable and you can walk around.
So like wear it all day?
But maybe not 9 times out of 10, often for me, because I don't schedule things properly. But you finish at the last minute, you're like, I don't have time to test run this. It's 4 in the morning, I gotta be there at 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed. This is good enough. And then you get there, the shoes are uncomfortable, or you didn't put air holes in your mask, or you have like a helmet, it's just got no ventilation.
You're breathing into it, and sweating it up. And
It probably smelled like glue on the way to the convention this time because the glue was still dry, and I sure didn't dry on my outfit before I got here. It wasn't even done.
Or like, corsets are sort of like a big thing nowadays,
Right.
and I'm always like, oh yeah, I've got this great corset, I'm gonna wear it at the convention. Well, I don't wear it in between conventions. Like, I don't practice with it, essentially.
Right.
So I get there, I put it on, I'm like, yeah, cinch me, you gotta get me down to 16 inches again.
Right.
Then you're like, oh God, this was a terrible mistake. I can't breathe.
Corsets suck.
Yeah, seriously. But what it is that you're not used to wearing it.
Right.
So.
Well, especially we did a body paint kind of show one time where we put a woman in a
fashion
corset,
show.
and she just wasn't very used to wearing corsets, and it wasn't uncomfortable for her. But what she didn't realize was that it is compressing everything on her inside. And she ended up getting violently ill from wearing it too long.
Well, she
because
got painted at like the beginning of the day, and the show wasn't until like 10 p.m. And so she's just wearing it all day, and they had food and stuff for us, so she was like eating to keep her strength up, but
Right, there's nowhere for it to
digested.
yeah, so it was pretty.
That's not good.
Yeah, and when he laced her back up, she was like, just make it really tight. He was like, yeah, it's like super tight.
I
Just,
left
it
like a
can't
gap
go.
like this.
Oh, okay.
We're like, we
right.
don't want you to die.
Right. Please don't fall over.
But she was really ambitious, that's admirable enthusiasm.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of the controversy that's going on about people being, unprofessional, or how would you put it, being rude, or
Towards the cosplayers? Or?
yeah, towards the cosplayers. Because I'm reading a lot, and I'm trying to get, because I keep hearing this, and I've never seen it myself. So it's like it's kind of getting to me, because I'm like, I've never seen anybody do this, but I keep hearing about it, and you guys would know more than me. Like when you're dressed up, and you, like in your chainmail bikini or whatever. Do you have, are a lot of guys inappropriate, or is it just some? Is it like what are we talking about? How's this?
I mean, obviously it scales with the size of the convention.
Right.
But yeah, people sort of take the whole like, well, you're dressed up, and honestly, you don't even have to be dressed in something skimpy, but the fact that you are portraying a character that they like, or the fact that you're showing some cleavage or whatever, but really there's a certain kind of person who will take anything as an excuse to see it as an invitation to they're like, oh well, this person, they're flaunting themselves for me, or they're dressed up as this character that I've fantasized about for however many years, therefore, normal social propriety standards don't apply. Because I assume that most of these people are not like this in real life. I have no way of knowing. But
Maybe they are.
I mean, it's entirely possible.
I think it gets worse when you get people who aren't exactly used to the community that we've kind of set up, because
Those guys are awful.
If you're one of those people that goes to different conventions, or you go to the same convention over and over and over, year after year, and you've seen these faces and you've been exposed to the environment to where you know that there are going to be people walking around in probably somewhat scantily clad, or impressive or eye-catching or whatever kinds of costumes. If you see that all the time, then you know almost, if nothing else, through mimicry, about how to react to these people, because you see everybody else, being respectful. And it's like when I'm taking a picture with someone who's scantily clad, you do the hover hand. You don't actually touch them because you don't know what their boundaries are. And it's just, most people that come to these kind of conventions know that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then you get someone who's going to a convention for the first time, or they were walking down the street and saw that there was something cool going on, so they stop in and look.
Yeah.
The points in time when I've
Or they know there's going to be a bunch of scantily clad women
they're
there.
coming for that.
Yeah.
The points in time when I've been at a convention where you have a hotel doubling as a convention hotel and a get together for a bunch of college kids or something like that, and those two parties mix.
Sales guys, sports fans.
Bachelor
this
parties.
mall actually.
Oh,
I was gonna say they got to be the best,
sounds
right?
like a nightmare.
They're not familiar with the kind of exposure, and I don't think that they know where exactly to put to weigh this, or somehow they have a short circuit or something. They don't know how to act. And I've seen some of that actually at the mall here at this convention center. You have people that are in these costumes, and they walk out into the mall, and they're not like inappropriately dressed, but it's definitely not what you would normally put on to walk around the mall.
Right. It's not your Sunday best.
Yeah, and so the people there don't know exactly how to react to you.
I mean, usually, like, I would say most people are nice, and so sometimes people are a little bit awkward, and that's not necessarily creepy.
Right.
I think part of the controversy is that maybe like there have been a few people who sort of blown the whole thing out of proportion, you know, and like, oh, people taking my picture, like what? Which, if you put a costume on, you're gonna get your picture taken.
Right, yeah, sure.
You know, frankly,
That's
even
sort
if
of
you
part of it,
don't
right?
put a costume on, you might get your picture taken.
Right.
That's just part of it. And as long as they're not doing something weird, like trying to like take a picture up your skirt, it's not a big deal.
Right.
You know, people ask, you stop, you take the picture. You know, they might want to chat for a few minutes. That's fine. That is totally okay. You know, just where it gets weird are like the people who don't ask and like try to take pictures like of your cleavage from across the room with their telephoto lens, or you know, behind the skirt or all that kind of stuff. And that's just completely crossing the line. Like, why would you do that?
Right.
You know.
But I mean, like, how like prevalent would you say this is? I mean, it's like, let's say, so here, you know, do you do much cosplay here at GenCon?
I do a little bit.
Okay, but I know you do it at Dragon Con.
Yeah.
I think I saw you there last year. Were you there last year?
I was there
probably
last
I
year.
probably saw you last
Yeah.
year. So, like, someplace like Dragon Con, that's a good example. Is that something that's like, is it every day? Is it a couple times
It's
a day?
prevalent enough that I would say most cosplayers are sort of like mentally braced to like expect that it's gonna happen.
Okay.
And that's a very negative thing for the community. Like, we're supposed to be coming to this, like, we're all geeks, you know, this is supposed to be a sort of a safe, inclusive, fun community.
Sure.
You know, we don't all have to necessarily agree.
No.
You know, but it should be respectful, and everybody should feel okay being there. And the fact that you have to sort of be like, okay, you know, I'm gonna wear like my Sailor Moon costume, and people are gonna try and take pictures of my ass, and I just sort of have to like, you know, prepare for it. Like,
Right.
Nobody should be preparing for that. Nobody should be like, okay, time to go convention. Let me make sure that, like, you know, no one can.
Emotional hardening, let's go.
Yeah, like that's awful. You know, you want to be able to let your guard down and go and have fun with your fellow geeks.
So, when you got into cosplay, you said, this is what I want to do. How did you learn to do this? How did you, because I'm sure there's people who are like, I'd like to get into cosplay, but how do you make these really cool spandex suits? And how did they get that leather to look that way? And, you know, I mean, I guess you look it up online or YouTube videos? I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of options.
That's what you want me to.
I mean, depending on what genre of costume you're doing, there's like quite a few official costuming groups. For example, I guess the most famous one is like the 501st,
Oh, yeah,
which
right.
does all the Star Wars, like the villains in the movie costuming. And so they have lots of resources and guidelines and forums and threads about building stuff, you know. But there's lots of these. You know, there's one for like the Mandalorian mercs. So like, if you want to look like Boba Fett, these are the guys to go to because they are all studied up on this. And,
Okay.
and then there's like lots of websites, like you know, cosplay.com type stuff, and more forums, and there's tutorials online, and
Lots of YouTube videos.
lots and lots of YouTube videos, which I found to be of varying levels.
Yeah, because anyone can make a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those
Wanna
things
just
like
fast forward through it and
you
see
might be able to
the
do
results.
something, but you might not necessarily be good at explaining how to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I personally, like, my preferred method is to find someone who knows how to do it and go work with them.
Okay.
So I sort of get like the hands-on direct interaction. So I apprenticed with like several different costumers over the past couple of years to learn
Okay.
stuff. Right now my big challenge is sewing, so I've been hitting up a couple of people like, hey, how does this sewing machine work?
I know there's this thing called a sewing machine, and
Yeah. There was a great
Yeah,
graphic
really.
online that was like, you know, what a sewing machine looks like to non-sewers, and a sewing machine like flux capacitor,
right. That's what it looks like
additional
to me.
pylons. I was like, this sounds about right.
Right.
Yeah.
which wire do I cut? Oh, I'm sorry. Right. But now you said you started learning leather work. Where did
You
you?
pretty much taught yourself.
Yeah, there's probably not really anything that I know in costuming that I didn't teach myself.
But you said you worked at the. Did you work at the Ren Fair? Did you go to the Ren Fair?
No, I went. I've been going to the same Ren Fair since I was 15, so like for 15 years now. Yeah, I saw some guys walking around in leather armor, and so, you know, I gotta have one of these things. And so I went to the little shop that sells leather armor, and me being a 15-year-old with a 15-year-old's job, I flip over the price tag, and it's like $2,800. Yeah, right. I'm like, okay, maybe not. But finally, you know, I had kind of the same experience every single year I went back. And when I was in college, finally just decided, you know what, how hard can this be? And ended up still being a broke college student at this
Right.
point. going to the Tandy leather factory where I knew they sold leather, so
Right.
I bought the
It's in the
basic
name and all.
tools. Yeah, pretty much. Bought the basic tools I figured I would need and a bunch of scrap leather because I couldn't really afford whole hides. So my first pieces were like put together from little bitty pieces. That's why they all look very intricate and like woven together and stuff. That's not because I just had this grand aspiration for having this intricate pieces because I couldn't afford a big piece of leather. But,
How did you find the time to cut all that stuff up?
college student.
I had to.
Yeah, I didn't have much choice. It was either
No, but the
that.
best part of this is like, so that, this is like the first thing he makes is this suit of armor, and he keeps adding to it. And it is literally an award-winning piece of armor. It's the first thing he made, and it wins awards. And the first thing I make, and everyone's like, did you tape that together?
Yeah,
There's some gum in there.
that suit of armor is actually going to be appearing in a film, Gamers 3 Hands of Fate.
Oh, really? That's cool. Very cool.
So it's done pretty well for being something that was pieced together by a broke college student that didn't know what the heck he was doing.
I still have the thing that I pieced together when I was a broke college student. It's in my closet. I don't know what to do with it. It is a piece of crap.
But it has sentimental value.
Yeah.
I saw
yeah.
my goggles.
And I just slowly kind of attach skills to the foundation that I already know I'm good at, and I added plastic molding to it because it's a lot like water molding for leather, and put sheet metal on things. So now I do metal work on top of the leather, but still it all just kind of builds on itself.
And kind of as you cosplay and you meet more cosplayers, you kind of have this network of people you can like come to for specific questions. Like people.
That's really cool. How did you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Where did you get those contacts even?
Right.
People will help you source stuff. They'll point you towards like, well, this is where I learned how to do it. So it's a very supportive and constructive community
Right.
when it's
Excellent.
being good.
When it's working the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
So I always research everybody before I do an interview if I can. So I looked you up and I saw like your hobbies and stuff. So you're a foodie.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie. I just wrote up.
Really?
I wrote a blog on being a foodie. And I was like, all right. So these are geek gamer types. How can I write something interesting about food? Because I mean, they all like that. Food is in the geek culture big time. So it's like I'll write about weird stuff that I like that you may have never thought to try. That's really good. And so I got my favorite thing. What's your favorite all time most favorite thing to eat ever? Do you have one?
Wow, that's like asking me which
I
of
know.
my limbs is my
Right,
favorite.
right. Like the first just pops up into your head, like.
It's probably some kind of dessert.
So you got a sweet tooth. You like
Major
desserts?
sweet tooth.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my favorite thing. This is gonna sound really pretentious, but this is the first thing that popped into my head. There's this type of macaron.
Okay.
And like the macarons are sort of getting popular. Cause they're basically, they look like these little cookies, I guess. They're made with like almond flour and
Oh, yeah.
egg whites, and
Oh, they're
they're
good.
really
Yeah.
super hard to make. But they're getting all popular, and everybody's like mad about macarons. And
Okay.
I followed like 8 blogs that were specifically dedicated to making macarons. That's beside the point. There's this one specific type called Ispahan, and it is a rose-flavored macaron, and it's got fresh raspberries and lychee mousse inside, so it's like a sandwich.
Wow.
And it's so good. And I like never would have even thought of these flavor combinations, but it is amazing.
Are you big on food or?
Really hungry.
I have kind of a love-hate relationship with food, actually.
He's like the opposite. I'm gonna sit closer to you. He's not,
I love to eat as much as
Yeah,
anybody.
pretty much.
But because I do so many things, I kind of begrudge the amount of time that I'm spending eating because I need to get other things done.
What?
But then, and on the other hand, while there are all these things that I really
Is it
want
food
to
time
eat,
yet?
all these things I really want to eat, when I look at like a spread of food, I start adding it up in miles I have to run. So it's like, here's a
so
cookie that I want
this
to
is
eat.
why
That's a
it's
mile and a
hard
half
to
I
be
gotta run.
friends with fitness cosplayers.
I see.
Because
okay.
you're like, hey, let's go out for milkshakes, and they're like,
Oh,
well,
I
I'm
gotta show my
trying
abs
to get down
tomorrow.
to 8% body fat, so I'm not really eating sugar or carbs or really anything.
Water and protein powder. That's all we get for the whole
The
weekend.
occasional
That's
lettuce leaf.
delicious.
No, I can't do that. Like, I try to eat healthy, but I couldn't be like, oh, well, time to get down to 8% body fat for my costume. I'm not gonna eat anything but right. No, like, I want to enjoy my existence. So I
Sorry.
admire that.
So you're gonna hate this one. This is my favorite. I like to take peanut butter and put bacon on it, right? And then and then fry it in a pan like a grilled cheese with butter. So good.
I'm gonna try that.
So good.
Peanut butter, bacon.
But watch the peanut butter because it holds on to heat for a really long time. So
Oh,
you
okay.
want to give it plenty
Molten
of time.
peanut
But,
butter.
oh my God, because it's cool. It's got to be cool, right? It's got to be sitting here for a while. It's got to be cool, right? You bite into it, it's like, oh, it's not cool.
Tongue melted off.
Right. So just watch that, but it is fantastic.
All right.
Did Elvis have a sandwich kind
He
of
did.
like that?
It's actually got the idea from Elvis. He had everybody thinks it's a peanut butter and banana, but
No, it was
he
like
had a
bacon
peanut butter and bacon.
honey or
and-
something?
I don't know about honey. I wouldn't put honey in it. It's already.
It was a really strange, like sweet, salty, crunchy thing.
And my
but-
second one, the only thing I like even close to that is cream cheese and bacon again. See, cream cheese and
There's
bacon
a
on
pattern
a
here.
bagel, right? And piled high. I mean, it's gonna be thick with bacon, cream cheese.
Do you do like a layer of bacon, layer of cream cheese, layer of bacon?
Could be, sure, you can do that. Yeah.
Ah.
Branch
I would
out
probably put the cream cheese, bacon because it would hold it together.
Oh,
better.
okay.
as a glue.
So really, like, if I need to impress you, I just need to be like, look, I made this thing with bacon on
Well,
it.
no, I'm not like a bacon file. I like a lot of things that don't have bacon in it. It just so happens to my two favorites.
Let me make a confession. real
Okay.
quick. Because I have this idea about food and this love-hate relationship. Every once in a while, the system breaks down.
Right.
And I have been known, and many people know this because it shows up on Facebook, to make the cookie.
Cookie. Okay, what's a cookie?
Which is a cookie that
Right.
you bake, usually chocolate chip in my case. Take a chocolate chip cookie, and I take chocolate chip cookie dough, and I put it on the flat side of the chocolate chip cookie, and then I take another chocolate chip cookie, and I put it on top of that, so you make a cookie sandwich.
Oh, okay.
If you hold it close to your ear, you can hear the sound of your impending diabetes.
Right.
Pretty much.
Well, I mean, when I eat my bacon and peanut butter and melted butter sandwich, my arteries literally slam shut. And
You
like,
have to stretch afterwards.
I start seeing spots from the blood loss to my brain. But
That's how you know it's
so,
tasty.
So worth it. I only do it once in a great while. But that's about it. So is there anything that I haven't touched on about cosplay? Because I don't know cosplay like you guys know cosplay. Is there anything I've missed?
I really wish I could comment on the whole Heroes of Cosplay thing that's going on right now, because my Facebook feed has been blowing up about it.
What's Heroes of Cosplay? What's that?
It is a show, it's a reality show on Sci-Fi.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know what that is. Right, okay,
It's
yeah.
about a bunch of famous or notable cosplayers. And as far as I can tell, pretty much everybody hates it.
Really?
Yes.
Well, cosplayers, anyway.
Yeah, that's all I'm friends with.
As someone who's not watched the show, and from basically just feedback that I've been getting from other people, it focuses on these very successful, very well-known cosplayers.
Are we talking like Yaya?
Yeah.
She's
the
sort of
primary.
like the
Yeah,
front
right,
Yep.
okay,
person
yeah,
for the
right,
show.
But you have to think, the number of actual professional cosplayers. I mean, you can
Very
count
small.
them on
Yeah,
your
sure,
hands.
sure.
You don't even need your toes. So it's not really. If you're going to say what is cosplay and how does it affect people and how do these people act or what are these people, you don't need to look at the 10 people that everybody
Right.
knows. You really need to more look at the commoners in the community, more or less. And I think that's what most people's
Because
problem is.
everybody wants, I think every cosplayer out there has that dream of being like, one of those people who like
Oh, wouldn't it be
breaks
nice?
through the glass
Yeah,
ceiling and they get
sure.
to make their living as a professional cosplayer. But holy cow, like there are so many challenges stacked against you. The least of which being you are attempting to make your living off of other people's work.
Right.
So when you're selling your cosplay prints and stuff, that's a huge copyright violation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they can actually, and fortunately, like, I don't think there's been anything major, but there have been a couple of things where, like, cosplayers were, like, trying to sell prints, and someone had to come to them and be like, I'm gonna need you to stop doing that.
Right.
So-
I'm surprised Disney isn't like crazy about it. Like people
Oh,
because
Lord
Disney
almighty.
defends their copyright like crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, like, if they really, if they catch, maybe we shouldn't even be talking about
Yeah,
this.
shh, don't say
Yeah.
anything.
But you're talking about a hobby or a profession in some people's cases, with the name "play" in the title.
It's something
Right.
people like to do.
Cosplay.
There's
People do it for fun.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So maybe that'd be something that would fall under. Maybe you could make a case for it falling under the fair use or what is it, not satire, when you make fun of something like
Yeah.
Weird Al.
Like
parody.
Parody, right, but maybe it falls under parody, because that's allowed under copyright law. So maybe you could make a case for it. No, I'm parodying it, because I don't look anything like them. Are you kidding me? It's a joke!
I was gonna say, if you're doing something where you're obviously not like them for one reason or another, I'm sure you can make that argument, but some people are pretty doggone spot on. It might be a hard sell.
I mean, like, so you spent so much time trying to look exactly like this character.
Like, crap,
But
I should have looked less like them.
But when you go to court, you lie.
And then making commissions, like, holy cow. There's so much that people don't realize about the whole, like, turning your hobby into a business thing. Because I see people and they're like, oh, I'm trying to, like, I'm being professional about this. And it's like, do you pay taxes on it?
What?
Do you, like, have you actually registered yourself as a business entity? And there's, like, besides all of the legal stuff, part of turning into a business is, like, once you start making costumes for other people, once you're making things for them, you don't have time to make stuff for yourself.
Right.
It took 2 years to make the costume that I wore this morning because I have to stop doing it every single time I get a call from somebody that says, hey, I need this thing. And it's like, oh, project that makes me money, project that costs me money. Well,
And the thing he's wearing right now is, like, missing, like, half of
yeah,
it.
and
It's all,
I
like,
threw it together before I came
Yeah.
here.
It's kind of like,
It's very fan servicey, shall we say.
the guys who carpenters, right? Their house is always falling apart.
Yep.
They get home, it's like, I'm so tired of swinging a hammer. It's like, but you could totally fix this. It's like, yeah.
It doesn't leak that bad.
All right, it's
That cup is
fine.
doing fine
Right.
catching water.
All right, well, excellent. I want to thank you for coming on my show. Thank you very much. No, it's fine. And I hope everybody got good info on cosplayers. And
You've just enjoyed the MythWits. Join us for a live broadcast next week and every week, Mondays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you miss our live show, you can always catch the encore episodes and the podcast version at our website and on iTunes. Make sure to check out our website at mythwits.com, and of course visit us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and iTunes. MythWits is a Studio187.com production and is protected under an attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives, Creative Commons work. You can download and share it with whoever you like. Just don't change it and don't try to make money with it. Make sure to check out Studio187.com for more cool stuff.